Okay, this is Wade Hall coming from you here in the historic Williamson, West Virginia radio building. I'm joined today with
Matt Hager
and
Josh Ferrell.
We're going to be talking about the Amber Spradlin case in our neighboring state of Kentucky. It's a pretty big deal. There's been billboards put up. It's the talk of Facebook, social media. And the event started about 2 years ago in June of 2023. And it stems from a murder conspiracy cover-up. And we're going to just jump right into it. So, Amber, she was a hostess at the Brick House restaurant. Now, this is something I don't know. I'm not a Kentucky guy. You guys have some Kentucky experience over here with the Brick House?
I've eaten at the Brick House. Have you eaten the Brick House, Josh?
Yeah, not since this happened.
Me either. I don't think I would go there.
No, I wouldn't now, but I had previously.
Okay. So
they used to have a lot of live music. And
so what I understand, Josh, I think that they got off of work. They ended up going to a bar. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it was a bar called Seasons over there.
And then it was... Now, let's outline the players here. We have MK, and that is...
Michael McKinney is his name. He's the son of the dentist, Michael McKinney.
Okay. And then he went there to meet a cousin?
I believe it's a second or third cousin, Roy Kidd.
Okay. And then somehow Amber met up with him there?
She did. She worked at the Brick House, went there after. I believe her and Roy Kidd were the two that were actually closer friends.
Okay. Do you know what happened from there? Because I loosely know a little bit about this, but I don't know a whole lot about this.
From what I've read, they ended up drinking at the Seasons bar till 3 or 4 in the morning. I believe the reports were 4. I think there might have been some initial trying to downplay that because that would actually be outside the hours they're supposed to be open. But after that, it was routine for people in the area to go to the McKinney home, drink more, hang out more, and that's what the group of people did.
Okay, so they were there for like an after party.
Correct.
Okay. So I think was there several 911 calls or?
I believe there was ultimately 2 911 calls. From the reports I've read, which were dealing with the police investigation and the Roy Kidd interviews, that they drank at the McKinney residence and partied and hung out from about 4 to 6 to 7 in the morning. There's been conflicting reports as to whether it was 6 or 7. I believe the Roy Kidd interview, he said that it was approximately 6 a.m., but then there was some other witnesses that had been there and left. I believe it was either, might have been Josh Mullins' girlfriend, who said that she had seen Kidd and Spradlin up around 7 a.m., so they speculate that the murder had to have happened after 7 a.m. So there was a 911 call originally. I believe it might have been around 6 a.m. before that, where Michael McKinney, the father, the dentist, had called over Roy Kidd. He called complaining that he had a highly intoxicated individual at his home. They couldn't do nothing with him. He was acting a little crazy. But he specified that he did not want him arrested. He just asked if they could come out and pick him up, and I believe his exact words were, put him in a drunk tank. So that's 911 call number 1. There was nothing that came out of that. There was no wellness check. No one came out and, looked into the situation.
I think the father, Michael McKinney, actually got on the 911 call at some point and said that he had it taken care of or something. Is that what you kind of heard from it?
I believe so. I believe whenever he was on that call, he kept specifying that he didn't want him arrested, then finally just said, I've got it taken care of.
Okay. And then there was a second 911 call.
There was a second 911 call later that morning, which dealt with Amber's body having been discovered. Mm-hmm. So what allegedly happened was Roy Kidd, who was highly intoxicated, I believe the report stated that he urinated, defecated on himself, and he woke up the next morning and he actually came out and found Amber. He states that he was looking for his cell phone, then found her. He goes to Michael McKinney, the father's door, knocks on it, wakes him up, tells him, she's dead. He states that, basically he just looks out the door, looks at her, then goes back in his room. So there's a phone call that he made to the then police chief, and that lasted approximately 8 minutes. So he talked to him prior to making the 911 call. Then he ultimately makes the 911 call.
So it seems like he called the police chief to try to get some sort of advice of what to do? You think that's what the speculation is around that?
That's definitely the speculation. The allegations are with the subsequent allegations of cover up. There's 7 counts of tampering and evidence destruction. So what the speculation is, he was calling him, trying to find out what he needed to do and probably how to protect himself.
And this call was not a 911 call. It was to his cell phone.
It was to his private cell phone, and he has since retired. He's no longer the police chief. There's speculation that the retirement was because of this.
And that would make sense.
Yeah,
I think it took a while before they ruled Amber Spradlin's death a murder. Is that correct?
Correct. And part of the whole issues, and a lot of people taking some points of contention with this. And one of the reasons why they originally started, having some suspicions about the McKinneys, when Roy Kidd found the body, and he's worked at a ARH hospital. He's not a nurse. I think he might be a some sort of CT technician, maybe.
Yeah, but he's definitely in the medical field.
But he's been in the medical field, I think it was 30 years. Mm-hmm. He speculated that she had died of some sort of aneurysm or stroke or some sort of natural causes just from what he allegedly seen. He's seen some dried blood, but it wasn't what you'd expect with a brutal murder, according to him. Mm-hmm. On the 911 call from McKinney, who Roy Kidd states that didn't come out to see the body, he stated that in early interviews, he says she's got her throat slit. When first responders arrive on the scene and the coroner arrived on the scene, they did not see that wound. The way she was positioned on the couch was upright with her chin down, which would have been covering that. Mm-hmm. Roy Kidd didn't see that. The first responders didn't see that, and the coroner didn't see that. So there's been a lot of speculation that obviously he's seen that somehow to be able to say that on the 911 call. And the prosecution had submitted that transcript, and it actually has it on there. She's got her throat slit.
And he was there making that phone, and it's heard on the phone call. How reliable can we take these testimony of their chain of it? They were drinking all night, I would assume.
Oh, yeah.
So you said they left the bar at 4 a.m, and this didn't happen until 6 or 7. That's a lot of intoxicated people there.
Oh, yeah. And Roy Kidd, like we talked about, he was so intoxicated he had fell multiple times. They called the 911 on him. The reports and the filings in the court system on the prosecution made, and I think the defense, too, stated he had urinated and defecated on himself.
I think that Roy Kidd, he actually did an interview recently, or a deposition, kind of like for a criminal case. I mean, those are odd in a criminal case, but we have the transcript of what the interview from the officer was, right?
I think what that was, I wouldn't call it a deposition. I think it was just a recorded interview, and then they had the transcripts prepared off of that.
And I think what he said was that initially Roy Kidd believed that Amber Spradlin had a stroke or aneurysm.
That's correct, yeah. Okay. And that's why a lot of the speculation and a lot of red flags were raised by the 911 call, with McKinney stating that she had her throat slit.
Okay. And how was the sleeping arrangement? Do you know anything about the sleeping arrangement that night?
I don't. I know that Kidd, I believe, had went to a separate bedroom. Spradlin was found on the couch. McKinney, the father, was in his own room, and I'm assuming McKinney, the son, had his own room, but I don't know anything about that.
And Spradlin was found on the couch, and this was like in the living room or something?
I believe so. It sounds like they might have had some sort of basement that they used for partying and hanging out like this, and I believe that might be the case.
So this was a larger property,
I'm assuming the prosecution has filed their intent to use the floor plans of the home in their case. But I've only seen pictures, but it does seem to be a nice house, and this is a wealthy family.
That's what I was thinking from his dentist practice and owning of multiple residents and businesses in that county.
Yeah, I believe that he was well-to-do, not just from the dental practice, but from businesses.
Yeah.
So what month was Amber Spradlin murdered?
She was killed in June of 2023.
And I think it's crazy because, I mean, you couldn't drive down US 23 going to Prestonsburg without seeing Joseph or Amber Spradlin signs. And it took how long for them to make an arrest in this case?
Well, the indictments came in July of 2024, and if I'm remembering correctly and everything I've seen, I don't believe they made any arrests prior to the indictments.
Yeah, so it took a long time, and Debbie Hall was her aunt, and her aunt was very vocal, and I don't think if it wasn't for her aunt that there would have been as much attention on this case as there were.
Hey, I'll tell you, if anything ever happens to me, I hope I've got a Debbie Hall in my corner. I got some family members that I'd speculate that it would be, but I tell you, she's went to bat for her. She's I believe she's a physician in the area.
Yeah, she's a family doctor, I believe. And then at some point, her and the judge executive actually got into a squabble, and the judge executive tried to get her locked up.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's went to the meetings. She's went to bat. Not caring who she's made mad. She's went against the politicians, went against the public. She's not been scared to be vocal.
At one point, the judge executive retained jailhouse calls that Debbie was talking to someone inside the jail, and they were talking about Debbie making their bond, and Debbie said, "Why don't you wait? Michael MK will be there soon."
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that the judge executive at the time tried to get some sort of charges brought up on Debbie because of that. Because I seen that on that podcast recently with the person we had on here before, Wade, Hillbilly Crime.
Yeah. When it comes to listening to phone calls from the jail, I know it's all recorded and stuff, but having a judge executive monitor when someone calls to the jail to specifically be like, I want to listen to what they were saying, means he was paying attention to her.
Yeah.
Well, there is, and I'm not sure the judge executive's role in it, but there's also a companion civil case in this. Mm-hmm. They actually filed a civil lawsuit about this. Kentucky has that shortened 1-year statute of limitations, so they had to do something within that time frame, and it came about prior to the criminal charges.
Is it for wrongful death or for a federal case?
I believe it's for wrongful death. I've not looked into the civil case a lot, but I believe it was it's against the investigators, KSP. I believe the police chief that we've referenced, I believe, in not following up on the 911 calls and not acting in a manner quickly to investigate.
Okay. That original call where he was like, "It's all fine, I'll take care of it."
Right.
Okay.
So eventually there were indictments and arrests, and I think that we had 3 parties arrested.
Right. You have M.K. McKinney, which is the son, and he is the one charged with the actual murder. You have Michael McKinney, the father, and Josh Mullins, and they are each charged with, all 3 are charged with 7 counts of tampering. Mm-hmm. And Josh Mullins, he comes into play. He lived in the home. I don't know the exact relationship between him and McKinney. I don't know if he's an adoptive son or basically he just lived with him so long he referred to him as a dad. I know here recently on the Justice for Amber page, they've got a huge following on Facebook. They had shared, a Father's Day post he made referring to him in a father capacity, but it's not a biological father. I don't know the exact relationship.
And do all of the so the bonds? I think MK is the only one still in jail. Is that correct?
That's correct. He had they set him a $5 million bond. His attorney actually appealed that, and the Court of Appeals found that Judge Coleman was within his discretion to set that based on these charges. There's been multiple motions to try to reduce that, to get him out. Multiple arguments his defense team has made, but they've been unsuccessful.
And then Michael, he is the dentist. He is out. And he did have his license to practice dentistry revoked for a while. Did you not?
It's kind of a nuance with legalese, but it was suspended. I believe temporarily suspended. It never got revoked. Mm-hmm. And basically, they entered a subsequent order that said, he was innocent until proven guilty. That they would reconsider it after the criminal charges played out. But he's actually got those back, and he's back in practice.
So does the judge do that, or does that come from like the Kentucky Licensing Board for Dentistry?
The Board of Dentistry. They're the ones that had initially put in the order suspending it, saying that, he could potentially be a danger to the public. But then they, when he got bond, he was allowed to go back to work. They reinstated that.
So who are the players? Who are the attorneys for these 3 individuals? Do you know who they are? Anything about them?
The only one that I know much about, because kind of the McKinney, the father, and Josh Mullins cases, they have kind of taken a back seat a little bit because they're not charged with the actual murder. So that's been the case. It's been, front and center.
Okay. And who is MK's attorney? Do you know?
His attorney, the main attorney, is Stephen Romines. He's out of Louisville, and he is, one of the top criminal defense attorneys in Kentucky. He has another attorney that I didn't personally know, hadn't heard of his name, and he actually caught some heat early on for allegedly using AI to draft some of his motions, and I believe the judge, he argued that it wasn't, that it was just mistakes. But the judge actually, in his ruling, stated that he believed he used AI.
Yeah, he actually got a fine for that. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think there was some information coming out that he was going to appeal that. I don't know anything that came out of that. Then Romines came in shortly after that, and kind of the focus was on him because he's always, for Kentucky, been a high-profile guy. When Scotty Scheffler, the pro golfer, got in trouble, that's who he hired.
Yeah, we followed that case pretty closely when it came out, but when you have a big time lawyer come from the city pretty much of Louisville down to southeastern Kentucky, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, that, and no matter how I'm a prosecutor, no matter how solid you think your case is, everybody here knows that the right defense attorney can throw a wrench in a lot of things. Look at OJ, everybody thought he was going down. Look at Casey Anthony, they thought she was had, and both of them got off.
Oh, yeah, they just caught her going on a date, I believe, in Connecticut recently.
Yeah, I believe so. She's made a lot of headlines for her dating life after.
So where are we at right now in MK's case? Are we they have a trial scheduled?
They have a tentative trial date set of December 1st, 2025. But practically speaking, I do not believe, from everything that I've read, I've watched all the hearings, everything I've seen, I don't believe the state will be ready to go at that point, and no fault on their part as far as the prosecution goes, but they've argued all along that they do not believe this will be ready until the spring of 26 because the lab is so backlogged that they don't have all the evidence processed, and they don't believe that will happen in time to have it for December, let alone for the defense to have it and have their own experts look at it and investigate it that way. The lab backlog and the delay in processing this evidence has caused all these delays, according to the state. That's why it's so long in charging. They were waiting to see how some things came out. And they've actually introduced, or I believe they've introduced it, and they're trying to get it funded and pushed through legislation called Amber's Law, which would add $10 on court fees across the state of Kentucky or Commonwealth of Kentucky to properly fund the lab and to try to get some more money pumping in to prevent these delays.
Well, I see, as the defense side, having delays after delay, I feel like the evidence, you want to get what was the cause out as quickly as possible to have the most, like, we figured it out. Like, we didn't have to wait and jump through hoops to, it could be this or it could be that. You want a definitive answer as quickly as you can get.
Oh, I completely get it. But even from the prosecution side, I'm sure those prosecutors are itching to get that information too. And we have the same issue across the river. You all know that even getting drugs tested takes forever. Autopsy, getting those reports back take a while. The autopsy report on this case is back, and they've got DNA from her fingernail scrapings back. But the state keeps citing a lot of evidence there still processing.
I got a July 24th pre-trial conference. They're supposed to have some expert witness disclosures. And what do you think that's going to be?
I believe that will be the defense basically saying they might be able to say we intend to use this expert and that expert, but they're also going to have to say we don't know what experts we need in totality because we don't have all this evidence back. Depending on how this evidence comes back, we might need our own experts to review and analyze this. And they're not going to be able to do that in July. I don't believe the prosecution will be able to name every expert because they don't know which analysts are going to be signing off on the reports on evidence that they've not got back yet. So I think what you'll see in July is you might have a tentative, we intend to use the analyst for this and that, but you're not going to have a definitive list. But I think what you're really going to see is this case isn't going to be ready December 1st. We're going to need additional time. Then you're going to see the defense object to that. You're going to see the defense say, well, if you're going to give them additional time, we want our bond reduction. Then you'll have all those subsequent arguments that stem from we're not ready yet.
So they don't have anything back from the Kentucky State Lab yet. And was that what they were citing, the reason in the delay for any indictments?
They are mine, and I don't think I've not seen anything that said we were waiting on this specific piece of evidence to come back, but they did get the DNA analysis from her under her fingernails back, and that tested probably, or with all the probability, to one of the McKinneys or their paternal relatives.
So why are they hanging their hat on MK?
Because he's the only one that had wounds on his arms. He had. Whenever they caught up with him and whenever they questioned him, they photographed scratch marks on his arms. Now, his team is arguing that those scratch marks predate this incident, that it was before the murder. But they did not find any markings on MK or McKinney, the father. So that's why they focused on McKinney, because it had to have been one of the McKinneys or a paternal relative.
Okay, is Roy Kidd a paternal relative?
No.
Okay.
And Mullins was not. So that's how they've cited that in trying to rule out those two, because the defense for MK, they're going to hang their hat on this likely was Roy Kidd. This could have been Roy Kidd. They don't have to prove it was Roy Kidd. They just need to create some reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So they've tried to hang their hat on that. You see from a lot of their pretrial filings, a lot of their bond reduction motions, and the way the state has countered that is Roy Kidd didn't have defensive wounds. Roy Kidd his DNA was not found under her fingernails.
So right now, that's what the state lab says and comes back with is going to be huge in this case.
Oh, I believe so.
So that's why you don't think that we'll get a trial. I know it's originally set for December the 1st. That's why you think that we're not going to have a December 1st trial date.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
And, going back to Roy Kidd, part of what the defense was arguing in a lot of the pretrial motions, they've tried to get out, in a lot of the statements that you read, is that Roy Kidd did have blood on him, that he had a cut under his chin. But they tested the clothing, and it was Roy Kidd's blood. He was so drunk that he kept falling, and he busted his chin open, so he had blood down his shirt.
The tampering with evidence, what does that come from? Did they try to clean the area or what?
There's 7 different counts. It comes from cleaning the area and mysteriously surveillance cameras, security cameras that they had at the home disappeared. They're gone. The DVRs that held those are gone. So there's nothing there to where they could have pulled the surveillance equipment. Additionally, in the autopsy report from Amber Spradlin shows that she was stabbed so hard that metal fragment from the knife was embedded inside of her. So the knife had actually broke. And they're alleging that the knife handle was destroyed, that the blood from the sink was cleaned, that the scene was cleaned. So all that comes from cleaning up the scene and getting rid of surveillance.
I even read they put like a fake knife out to like throw off the investigation team.
Correct. Oh, wow. A knife was found on the couch, and that's one of the allegations as well, that they had done that. And under the Kentucky statute, you can tamper with the evidence or fabricate the evidence, and that would be the fabrication.
So that makes sense.
So under the Kentucky statute, you're saying that they had a duty to preserve that evidence, that even though that like the DVD or the surveillance camera is theirs, they can't delete it if it was an active crime scene. Is that how the Kentucky statute reads?
You can't actively conceal it, destroy it, things like that. Now, if it would have been the situation where you're
it tapes over.
Yeah, where it loops over after a week and they waited 3 weeks to try to get it, they're going to have a good argument. The counter to that was you should have known you needed to keep that. But if they didn't give them a preservation notice, then they'd have a good argument on that.
Yeah, they would have no duty to preserve.
But the fact that they've actively or allegedly actively destroyed it, then that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, when the DVR ends up in a burn barrel in the backyard, it leans towards something happened. I saw each one carries, I believe, 5 years. So
up to 5 years on the tampering counts.
So when you get charged with 7 counts of tampering, that's 5 times 7 if you get the most.
Yeah, and you can imagine if if they're successful in their prosecution, get all the counts, they're going to push for the max. I think that the public pressure, the family pressure, they're going to have to push for the max.
I would agree with that.
Interestingly, one point that we've not discussed is, all this happened in Prestonsburg, Floyd County, And there's actually this trial will be held in neighboring Pike County, and they've got a Pike County judge on that case, but due to conflicts.
Yeah, Eddie Coleman's been around for a long time. If you practice law like we have for several years, you know who Eddie Coleman is.
I think he's a great judge for this case, because on a case like this, you want a judge that knows what they're doing, is going to protect their record, that they're not going to act hastily, rush into anything, and he takes the time to get it right.
Now, what do you think the challenge would be of finding a jury someone on a jury that's not heard about this case?
You don't necessarily have to find someone that hasn't heard about it. I don't know that you're going to find a lot of people that have not heard about it. You got to find people that have not made up their mind when they come in there as to, the guilt or innocence of a party, and that are willing to listen to the evidence and hear what it is. I think that they'll be able to see the jury. Okay. It'll be a tough time if you're at, one of the questions is going to be, do you ever see that billboard?
And everyone's
seen it, but you'll have some people that probably truthfully didn't know what it was. When I first seen it, the very first time, I didn't know what it was, but it served its purpose because I got a little bit nosy. I was like, what is this? And that's when I got hooked.
So you think we'll actually have the trial in Pike County?
I do.
Okay.
I do. And interestingly, a lot of times it's contested, but the Commonwealth didn't contest this one. They agreed with the having it changed over.
Okay, so they changed it from Floyd to Pike?
They did.
It's so close. You'd think that they would try to get it somewhere else.
I think under the statute, you got the preference is a neighboring county.
Okay.
And when you have local businessmen, they're normally well connected with the community, with elections. So the local judges, prosecutor, he knows the main cop there. He called his personal cell phone.
Right. And it's going both ways because the defense has been citing in their motions, that they're connecting all the dots. I'm guessing they're throwing a lot of money at this, the defendants are, because you can tell that they've got a team of investigators not only on the ground, but, doing digital research because they've cited podcasts, they've cited interviews and statements that Debbie Hall made. Mm-hmm. So in a recent filing, they had noted, it's actually one of the things that, going back to that July pretrial that will be heard, they're wanting additional discovery, and part of that discovery is basically the personal and work cell phones of every single trooper that worked on this case, because they state that Debbie Hall's fiance's brother, I believe, works at the post for the KSP, and they've said that Roy Kidd has two nephews that are troopers at that post.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
So, they're alleging connections stemming there, and they cited interviews that she gave for, various media outlets. So, they've got people watching all that.
It's just crazy that our community, we're in Williamson, West Virginia, but we're a stone throw away from Letcher County, Kentucky. We're a stone throw away from Prestonsburg. That we've had two high profile cases in the past year?
Yeah.
Ongoing. Yeah.
Well, and it comes back to these are small places. Everyone is somebody, you're related to somebody. It's hard to avoid conflicts, and that's one of the big rules as a lawyer. You want to not show, my cousin is here, and that's why I know this or this. Those conflicts stand out to the public when you're from Chicago and you're like, oh, this guy's cousins are with the cops or whatever. Around here, that's normal.
Yeah.
Everyone knows everyone.
Oh, yeah. And in trying to deal with that, it goes back to Matt and I talking about Judge Coleman. He's already addressed a lot of that. He's designated Mountaintop Media as the official party that gets to stream, and designated that they have to cooperate with the other media outlets to give their footage or, give them access to footage to use for their streams or their broadcast. And he's also already ruled, because there were issues brought up at prior hearings, the Justice for Amber movement is huge. I think on Facebook, you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they got 30 to 40,000 followers.
I looked at it; it was big, and
huge.
It's active. It's active. They're on there,
and they were showing up to the hearings, in solidarity, wearing their color, and I don't know if protesting, but showing their support.
Yeah.
So he's already entered an order that they can't be within. I think it was 25 feet of the Pike County
entrance.
Courthouse there.
Little election rules.
Yeah, trying to, cut that off. Because what they don't want, and you've seen it recently with Karen Reed, is the jury to be in their room and hear people out on the street chanting, free Karen Reed, free Karen Reed. So that they're trying to deal with those issues preemptively.
Did you watch the verdict in Karen Reed?
I did.
Did you hear the crowd go wild?
Yeah.
I mean, you could hear it all through the courtroom. It sounded like they won the World Series when they not good game.
The defense attorney on that case, Alan Jackson, he actually went out at one point during deliberations, and he was like, "Listen," he's like, "You all got to be quiet." He's like, "Back off." He said, "The judge has said that if you don't, they're going to keep us in the room. We're not going to be allowed to leave." He's like, "Please." He's like, "We get it." He's like. And they had some sort of hand gesture that they routinely use to show support. Yeah. He said, "Just throw that up. We know you're doing it." He's like, "Please be quiet."
It's like the home team. You don't want the fans throwing stuff on the field, getting that 15-yard penalty. You want.
Oh, exactly.
Don't want to get in trouble.
Which, I'm sure for the family of Amber, that all that support means a lot. But in a case like this, you got to protect the record too. You don't want an appellate ground being that, the jury the whole time was listening to people on the street chant, convict, 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 or, something to that effect.
And you got to think these are pre-trial stuff. We haven't even got to the trial yet. So if there is a trial, I'm sure the first day there's going to be a lot of people out there.
Oh, there'll be a trial. This isn't one that gets worked out. There'll be a trial, and I think Pikeville will probably be more wild than you've seen for many events.
Yeah, Hillbilly days.
Yeah, it'll be about like Hillbilly days, or if UK came down to play U Pike.
I kind of wanted to talk about when it comes to picking a jury. How many do you think they're going to go through? Because there's going to be a lot of people with strong opinions of
they'll have to call in a lot of prospective jurors on this one, I imagine. One, you got to deal with, even with it being a neighboring county, you got to deal with the issue of those that a lot of people do not want to sit on a jury, and this is a case that'll probably take longer than your average trial. So they're going to use this to get off of being on jury. So they're going to be like, do you know anything about this case? Yeah, he's guilty. That because they know they're going home. So you'll have to deal with that to a certain extent, and then I imagine they will be given wide latitude for voir dire and questioning these jurors. So that's going to take a while.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think on this case you have to give a little extra latitude to the defense to question.
So the jury pool is going to come from Pike County.
Correct. And Pike County, that's a huge county, so you can draw a big pool.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you going to say if they call you up, Matt?
I know nothing about this case.
Question number one, did you do a podcast on this?
Absolutely not. It's my twin.
Are you in fact wearing a recording device right now to capture this?
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah, plug it. YouTube and TikTok, find me.
That's right.
But yeah, it'll definitely, for a legal nerd, which I consider myself, it's definitely interesting because it brings up a lot of challenges. It's going to be good lawyer, and you got a good defense lawyer, you got a good prosecutor. It's definitely going to be a trial worth watching.
Who's the prosecutor on this?
Brent Turner.
Is it going to be Brent Turner?
Yeah.
I didn't know if this is bringing someone in or not.
No, he didn't. Not to my knowledge. He's been handling all the pre-trials, and he's been the one, filing the responses and the motions. He didn't conflict off though. Okay.
Because I know in the Letcher County judge shooting, they're going to have an attorney general.
Yeah,
I think do that.
I think there was some sort of conflict between it's dealing a judge and a sheriff. The prosecutor was probably worked with everybody.
Right. Yeah.
In this case, I don't guess the Commonwealth's attorney had any personal involvement with anybody.
And I don't mean to get off topic, but I think there's something going on with the attorney general in that case too. Is he not related to someone in Letcher County? Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't.
I think he's related to someone.
I think.
And if I'm wrong, I'll just cut this out. But
I think that's what I remember. That it was a little fishy down there, but who knows? No, it was the attorney general himself. He was buddies with the head of ARC Rehab.
Oh, okay.
And that was the rehab involved.
Yeah. See, there's a lot going on in that case too.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
Those new highways are really opening it up to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to this one, even though it's a solid case for the prosecution, when you have a really good defense attorney and you have a viable alternative suspect, there's always a shot.
And it sounds like there's no direct evidence on this. It's all circumstantial.
Well, I would consider the DNA evidence under the fingernails. I'd consider that direct. Outside of that, at this point, but you don't know what's going to come back from the lab. I don't think, and a lot of times you have a weak link from a group of defendants, somebody's going to flip. I don't believe a father's going to flip on his son, and I don't believe the Josh Mullins will flip on anybody just because he's considered, he considers himself to be a son. So.
Right.
Well, I think that's why we have the fourth guy, like doing.
Right.
He's giving all the information. He's the odd one out.
Yeah, he was the guy that was absolutely drunk. Probably don't remember a lot of the night, and he was the easy person to point a finger at. He had an injury, even though it was from being drunk, and there's a 911 call that he was so drunk that he was becoming belligerent and violent.
Yeah, causing issues.
Yeah. And that's another thing that the prosecution used with trying to fight bond is that they had evidence from mental health records of some alleged violent tendencies of MK. That they have some witness statements that he had pulled a knife out at I think a different party, and he had voiced suicidal ideations. That he had voices in his head telling him to kill himself, and those are all allegations that the state made allegedly from the mental health records.
Well, Facebook comments, I know they're not the most accurate, but they've been alleging drug use and all kinds of stuff at those parties.
Well, and one of Roy Kidd gave, he referenced the interviews earlier. I think that he gave 2 or 3. I think that he had given 2 pretty solid ones. Then his attorney cut off the third, and they left. But I believe in one of those, he states while he was drinking with McKinney, MK McKinney, that he went outside because his girlfriend had brought him a pill. They didn't elaborate much. I don't know if it was a pill that he was prescribed or if it was something that he shouldn't have been taking. I have no information on that. But even most of the things you'd be prescribed, you're not supposed to drink on top of. So.
Oh, yeah. If you've been drinking all night and you take something your doctor tells you to take, it's still go any direction.
Yeah, it's a hard thing for people to understand, too. You can get a DUI off of your prescriptions. I'm sure you all deal with that all the time.
I think the law in Kentucky is that you can have a DUI if you have too much stewed beans or something like that. That's what the case law says. You have too many stewed beans, you can get DUI.
What, they fermenting on you? Okay.
But going back to Roy Kidd's interview, I think that at one point he had discussed seeing MK take a bag of clothes out of the house.
Yeah, I believe McKinney, the father, I don't know how to better describe him unless we do Michael and MK, but it's going to get confusing. But McKinney, the father, had tried to say that MK had left sometime that night, but they found surveillance footage of him leaving early in the morning and driving to his girlfriend's house in Moorhead and getting there about 8:30. So he had seen him leaving in that morning with some of this.
And what time was Amber found?
Amber was found... I believe, and I'm not entirely sure on his timeline, but I believe Roy Kidd had woke up about 10:30. They were drunk. They had been partying until 7 in the morning. So I believe he woke up about 10:30 and found her.
Well, we've talked about the 3 that have been charged, but we have this civil case. Do we expect any charges against possibly the police there? That one officer that retired?
I don't know on that. And a lot of what they could potentially be charged with, off the allegations that they've done, I would imagine that would be more federal than state. Mm-hmm. And, the feds aren't going to be, you're not going to have many leaks there. They're not going to be talking to the press, and they don't have to get in a rush. They can take their time, wait a few years, and then hit them with it. But, I've not looked as much into the civil case. I don't even know a lot about those allegations other than, the alleged failure to show up after that first call and the alleged, the phone call at 8-minute phone call between the police chief and McKinney, the father.
So if anyone's listening out there and you're in Prestonsburg and you see any blacked out SUVs around, let us know.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed our episode here. If anything happens in the case, you best believe that we're going to come back and talk about it. And
I just want to say one thing before you leave here. We had Josh on. He's a prosecutor, but I used to think that I was pretty special because I'm licensed to practice in Kentucky and West Virginia. But this guy, How many states you licensed to practice in?
I'm licensed in 4. I got the Appalachian region covered.
How many states you licensed?
I'm licensed in 4. I got the Appalachian region covered.
So if you need anything at all in Appalachia, Josh Ferrell is your man.
235 Josh.
Hey, in Flatland, don't worry about it.
All right, guys. Thank you. It's been the Docket Dodgers. Remember to like, subscribe. Guys, we are doing great. Keep it going. Let's like, let's subscribe. Let's get this out here, and hopefully we'll bring you more. Until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.